Hello children, it's Reverend Martin here, and I've been asked to talk to you just very briefly about remembrance. And I've broken it down into what is it, when do we do it, how do we do it, and why do we do it. So what, when, how, why. Every year on the 11th of November at 11 o'clock in the morning, we remember all the people who have died in all wars. But that date and time is used because that is when the First World War ended, officially on the 11th November at 11 o'clock in the morning. Now that was a terrible war where millions of people died. So we used that date, but nowadays remember the tragic deaths of people who died in all wars on that day. So that is the what and when we do it. How to remember? Well, I think you'll come into contact with two main ways. You will have noticed and seen people wearing red poppies. This is my one that I'm wearing at the moment. This symbol was chosen because wild poppies grew abundantly on the battlefields after the fighting had ended. There was fields of red poppies. So poppies come in many different forms, but this one I've just showed you is the most usual one. And actually people also lay wreaths of poppies at war memorials. And I'll just show you my one here. That is the one I'm going to lay in my own time at the War Memorial in East Budleigh, because that's the one I'm going to be doing this year. This year is going to be much more difficult to do that. That's why I'm going to do it at my own time, because we can't have official celebrations. The second way, which you can all take part in, well, you can all wear a poppy if you wish, of course, is that people hold usually a 2-minute silence. And why do they do that? Well, in the silence we remember the bravery, the service and the sacrifice of many millions of people who died fighting for their country. Now this year, because we don't have a general celebration, lots of people are going to be observing that silence outside their own homes. On the 11th day of November at 11 o'clock, they'll come out and they'll have a silence outside their own homes because there's no official celebration. So that's how we do it in the main, and we've also already talked about the what and the when. So now probably the most important question of all is why do we do it? This is a huge question, but I'm going to break it down into just two main points. The main reason is to simply honour the sacrifice and the bravery of all the people who died in all the wars. That it's important to honour their sacrifice and their bravery and their service. The second reason we do it is to bring to mind actually the tragedy and waste and death of warfare generally. The hope is that in remembering the tragedy and suffering and the pain, is that leads us to be much more cautious about rushing into warfare ever again at the slightest drop of a hat. It really does need to be a last resort when every other avenue has been exhausted, because war is occasionally needed. That's why we have an army, a navy and an air force. It is occasionally needed, but it is always a tragedy, no matter what. So occasionally needed, but always a tragedy. And we remember the tragedy of all those millions of people who have died in wars, in all over the world actually, in every kind of warfare. It started as a remembrance for the First World War, and now it simply recollects the death and the suffering of people in all wars. Well, thank you very much for listening. I hope I've managed to explain a little bit about the what, the when, the how, and more importantly perhaps, the why of remembrance. Thank you very much, children, for listening. Thank you, and bye-bye, and God bless.